Did you miss out on seeing my presentations at the Homeschool Expo here in Perth this year in 2019? Well, if you did and you're interested in seeing them, I'm going to show you the footage that I got. I only got 10 minutes of the first part of my speech, and I have decided to re-record the rest so that everyone that missed out gets to watch it. So the two topics that we covered were Everyday LOTE, which is languages other than English, and Montessori for homeschooling. If we're only just meeting for the first time, my name is Rebecca Raitt from Empowered Avenue, empowering eclectic education, one avenue at a time. I'm a mother and a teacher, and I have a passion for alternative learning, education, and languages, and much, much more. I'm going to break this video up into parts so that it's not all one big chunk. It was a half an hour session, and we spent more time on languages, so hopefully I'll go into a little bit more detail in this video about Montessori for those that were there and kind of missed out on getting the skim through version because we ran out of time. So without further ado, I'm going to cut to the first 10 minutes of the footage, and then I will do the rest of the recording afterwards. So enjoy!
How are we going? Nice and early. My name is Rebecca Raitt and I'm from Empowered Avenue. This is my little home business that I run. I run classes from my house, and I have online workshops, online resources, and I put up weekly videos on YouTube, so you can follow me there. All the details will be at the end, and you can grab a flyer. And today we're going to be talking about using LOTE every day, so languages other than English. Type in LOTE on YouTube, nothing comes up. And Montessori for homeschooling. So I have a background in self-taught Montessori. I'm just about to start my teacher's training for Montessori. I'm a qualified primary school teacher, and I have a bachelor's in psychology as well. So a little bit of everything. I teach swimming on the weekends, and I swim as well, and I teach dancing, and I have lots of different hats, busy. And I have 2 kids as well, and I'm homeschooled, so my eldest has just started at Montessori school. It's very exciting. I've now got access to classrooms and teachers that I can go and talk to. Just push on the door. Just push. Yeah, push on the whole thing. It's not locked. So in terms of languages, I did 2 languages in high school, and then I just self-taught from there. I taught myself Arabic, reading and writing and speaking. I'm nowhere near fluent, so I completely understand from a parent's point of view how can you teach a language that's not yours to your child or to your students. So I've been there in both roles. I've both taught French and Arabic to kids, and I've both tried to teach my own children French and Arabic, and it's very difficult. I understand that completely. So hopefully today you get a few tips and tricks that I found that have worked for me. So how can we introduce and use LOTE every day? So the key word there is every day. We need little snippets. You don't need to speak whole sentences all day, even just like a word here or there. It's exposure that I'm aiming for, and that I aim to influence on others, instead of aiming really high and like, oh my god, I need my kids to be fluent. Like, it's probably not going to happen if you're not a native speaker yourself, or if you don't have access to a native speaker. So the most important thing is it's never too late to start. It is important to start early. There is research that shows that children do have an optimal learning period for languages before the age of 5. So you notice in schools they start teaching at like 7. They miss the key point. They really should be starting like way back in kindy. That's where they're just absorbing the language. They don't actually have to learn it. They just absorb it. So think of how a little child learns to talk and speak. They're just hearing people talking and speaking. They're not going and writing down things and making notes and trying to translate things. They skip that translating phase altogether. So they're just absorbing. But once they get past that age, then you're going into the active learning. So your classes, and you're actually trying to build vocabulary and things like that, sentence structure. So my first tip for if you're trying to teach your child another language at home is to read. Even if you're starting from completely scratch, you've got no experience in languages, grab a basic alphabet book and learn some words from that. Kids' books are fantastic. Like, they're just, I use kids' books because my reading level is not up to an adult in another language, so I use kids' books. I find there's a big jump from the alphabet ones with just one word on each page way of speaking. Some languages have different sounds completely, like Arabic, nothing like English. Some of their sounds we don't even have an equivalent. So they're picking up and they're getting that ear for those sounds, even if you're not saying them correctly. You can use other tips coming up to pick up that native ear. But at the moment, we're just trying to get exposure. And I found books at the library. All libraries are different, and depending on which language you're choosing, they'll have different amounts of books there and at different levels of appropriateness. But book depository was my next best thing. So I used to order a book every couple of weeks, free delivery, so you can order as much or as little as you want. One book's not going to break the bank. I found that language books are on the more expensive end, so you're looking at like $10 to $20 per book, which is quite pricey, but if you're building up the library gradually, it works out pretty well. The most important thing is to have lots of access to books. So building your library slowly, you will eventually have a nice library like this. I've got a shelf set aside in my bookshelf devoted to languages other than English. So I've got about half French, half Arabic. Some of them, or most of them, because I prefer to have just the language in that book, especially for Arabic, because the Arabic books are read right to left, not left to right. And I find that having the English in there, sometimes it's not translated correctly, or sometimes it's just off. And I'd rather it's still not translating. So they're just picking up the language instead of having like how we have to actively translate it in our head and then work. I'm trying to avoid that. There's a lot of research behind that, and it's a whole other topic about why you want to avoid translating. But if you're interested, there's lots of videos on YouTube and resources online to learn about that. And yeah, so I've mainly used the library for free and book depository for paid to various levels of success. If you're really fortunate, you could get your friends from overseas or when they go on holidays to pick you up some books. And also think outside the box. So for French, a lot of people just think of France, but if I had a friend going to Canada, I could get them to get me some French books as well, because it's quite it's one of their national languages as well. So that is probably that. The next tip is to watch. Now I know a lot of people are against screen time. I'm very pro screen time for language learning. You can't learn a language from a TV show or from listening to things. It's just one of the tools that we use to get the overall picture. So this is just one resource. Sorry, I'm walking to you guys. I'm trying to stay over the side. Yes, so there's a couple of options here. So YouTube is my number one. You can often find shows, even the most common ones that kids watch nowadays on YouTube in other languages. The other option is Netflix, and what you can do there is change your language settings on Netflix so that it comes up in the other language, or you can go down in the settings, and it's not just Netflix, but you can use other programs as well. That's just one example. And a lot of shows will have them translated, but dubbed in another language, especially the more common languages. So you can change the settings there. Another option is if they're older and they have their own device, you can actually change the whole device settings to that language. I've done this a few times for like short periods because it's quite overwhelming, but that immersion method is really, really beneficial, and it works especially with the younger kids. So your whole phone will change to that language, and then they have to figure out what everything is, and it will come, a lot of things look familiar, and yeah, that's if they're reading, so everything will be, and that also automatically changes a lot of these program settings to that language. So my notes are out of order. I missed the watch, but that's okay. So yeah, I would probably, like, if you're against screen time, you could still just do 30 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day. If you're getting a show in, it's building that ear, so they're native speakers that are speaking. And you're also hearing, depending on which shows you're using, but say for example Peppa Pig, Daniel Tiger for the little kids, I still like to watch those as an adult because it's picking up that more conversational language. So particularly for French, you're hearing what they would say to their children in an everyday setting, because it's really simple, it's quite easy to follow along, and if I've already seen that episode in English, I know what's going on, so I don't have to, oh no, I don't understand everything. That's fine, you don't have to understand everything. You can just pick up words, and every time you watch even the same episode, you pick up more and more.
we got a fair chunk in that 10 minutes. I apologize for the quality of the video and the sound and everything, but I didn't have a microphone. I thought it was loud enough that I wouldn't have to re-record that part of the video. So without further ado, we'll get straight into the rest of it so it can keep going. So the next slide was all about singing to your child in another language. Now you don't have to be the only one that's singing to your child. You can again use free softwares like YouTube to play nursery rhymes or common songs in the language that you've chosen. So some languages are easier than others to find songs for, I found. With French, it's quite easy to find the traditional nursery rhymes like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Whereas with Arabic, it's a little bit harder to find those sorts of songs. So I tend to lean more towards the traditional folk songs for Arabic, like things they might sing their child to sleep. A favourite in our house, and I've used it for about 5 years now, is Ya Taiba. And that is a traditional song. It's a very beautiful song in a dialect Arabic. So it's probably the only dialect Arabic that I use at the moment. But you can also look up other songs like educational songs. So songs that are teaching you something like colours, numbers, body parts, anything like that that's teaching a concept. Is quite easy to find days of the week songs, things like that. And then you can also look into, I'm a big fan of Disney. Disney is quite popular in our house, so we use, I've translated Disney songs for myself and then I've learnt them, and then my children just listen to them. So we have a playlist of Disney songs, particularly Let It Go from Frozen, and there's a whole playlist. I started with French, added Arabic, and then I added Spanish because it came up in the follow-on playlist on YouTube. So we ended up adding Spanish as well. My daughter learnt the difference between French and Spanish, and she can pick it quite easily. And then we also added the male versions because I got sick of hearing a girl singing all the time, so it makes it a little bit different. But you get these in different languages, and in Spanish there was a male and female duet, so yeah, we have quite a collection going on now. I've learned way more as an adult through songs than I have through just writing and memorizing words. It's a great way to pick up speech and whole sentences. Even if you don't understand the whole song, you're still getting an ear for it from native speakers, and you're just making your house sound like the language that you're trying to introduce. So we're trying to immerse the children in this environment as much as we can, especially if you're in an English speaking environment like we are. What I did was I picked a new song each week and we just kept adding to it from there. For command words, these are quite easy. These are words which are telling you to do something. So we can say come, go, don't touch that. These are the sort of things we use with children a lot. In some languages, such as Arabic, they have their own special format, a grammatical format. And this can make it quite tricky to try and formulate sentences because it changes depending on what you're saying. But command words are quite easy to learn. You can learn one at a time and then you can build on from that. So you can go from just saying go, you can say let's go, or you can say come or come here, and then you keep adding words until you have longer sentences or longer instructions as the children grow older. That's why learning a language with children, especially young children, is really, really easy because you can learn with them. So learning at their level, which is also your level, and then it will just all come to you naturally. So survival phrases. These are phrases which you use every day, and in normal traditional classes you'll learn phrases such as yes, no, where's the bathroom, and whatever other phrases that you would use. But these phrases are great when you're talking with a native speaker and they can fill in the gaps. But when you're the person who's trying to instill this language to your child, you are it. So you've got to be the one that's prompting this language use. So I found a survival list toolkit was quite handy. So I had a list of phrases or words which I used to help keep the flow of conversation going. Phrases such as I don't know or I don't understand, these were always high on my list even before I had kids. But also adding phrases such as what's this? What's that? This is like this. What are you doing? Where are you going? What do you want? All these phrases are used repeatedly throughout your day with a child, especially a young child. So it's really easy to just whip out these phrases and then teach your child some responses. and just keep building vocab like that in everyday situations. Praise. Praise is a big one with children. So I know in a lot of alternative parenting styles, praise is kind of looked down on in terms of we don't give empty praise. So saying good job or good girl or well done. These are empty. It's not saying what did you do well, what was a good job, what did I do well. And it's rewarding the outcome instead of the process. So normally we would praise like, you worked really hard on that, or I saw that you put a lot of effort into that piece of work. But do you see how many words are in those phrases? There's a lot. And when you're learning a new language, I found this was just too overwhelming for me to remember all those words and phrases for my children. So I took it down to keeping it simple. So I went back to those well dones and good job, or like good, even just saying good, and being excited when my child was using one of these languages back to me, because that's the hardest part. Sometimes children get to this point where they're just resistant to language learning. My eldest is kind of there at the moment, and it's just a lot of constant praise and encouragement to get her talking again in these other languages. So I'm a big supporter of mixing languages, in the sense that whatever gets you speaking a language other than your native language is the goal. So sometimes I forget a word in one of the languages that I'm trying to teach. So I'm trying to teach 2 different languages as well as English. But so sometimes I might have a mental blank. So I don't mind filling in the gaps of that. Obviously, you don't want to be doing this all the time because, yes, it is a little bit confusing. But native speakers who speak multiple languages, they do this all the time, and it's just natural. So I don't see why it's not natural, why it can't be natural for non-native speakers to do the same thing in an informal setting. So obviously, I'm not saying do this in an exam, because yes, you will fail. But in terms of like everyday and getting speaking and getting the confidence speaking, I'm quite a perfectionist by nature. So if I don't do things perfectly, then I prefer not to do it at all, which is a really horrible thing to do because it means you're missing out on a lot. And it's a big hurdle for me with language learning and talking. My speaking skills are very low, and my confidence is very low. I don't like hearing myself, especially if I'm not saying it right. And especially because I feel like I don't know enough. I can understand a lot, but I can't express myself enough like I can in English. So I always resort back to English because it's easier. But we don't want this. So we want to encourage our children to speak as much as they can in any language that they would like. If you're just teaching one, then that makes it easy. You can just stick to that. But you can throw in a word here or there. We're just trying to build up to more and more and more in that language. So an example of mixing in a sentence that I said one day, completely out of the blue and by accident, I said, it's fi ta chambre. So that's mixing 3 languages. I forgot how to say it's in Arabic or French, so I used English. And then I couldn't remember the opposite for the other 2 words in Arabic or French, so I just kind of threw it together. And I didn't realize until after I said it that I'd said that. And I was like so excited because I actually had said something naturally. So yeah, I was wrapped with this sentence, and I always use it as an example now for other people that it's okay to mix sometimes. You don't need to be a purist. I'm very big on taking the middle path, take the easiest path, and just do what you can. Another way we've picked up a lot of songs and phrases is by attending a local immersion playgroup for French. This is a great way to pick up everyday phrases when you're surrounded by people speaking the language to their children. It's also important for children to hear the native accent, and also for cultural awareness. All languages do stem from an original country or culture, and we should respect that and take into consideration about learning other parts of these languages, so the common celebrations and the customs that are followed in these countries, so that when we speak to native speakers, we understand where they're coming from. An example of this is in France. It's very uncommon to homeschool or to not send your child to school very young. So it's completely normal to send your child quite early to school, and that's just the way that it's done over there. So I hope this video helps and gives you some confidence about what you can do right now to get a language going with your family. My biggest motto is that some is better than none. So it's important to just get speaking and say anything that you can, and that's better than nothing. What's next? If you want these notes, I have a free download which includes all of these tips and a couple of bonus tips as a thank you for getting to the end of this video. Just click the link in the description below and you can follow the prompts to the download. You just need to pop in your email and it will get delivered to your inbox. If you'd like to stay up to date with all the latest products, I have some language products to be released very shortly. These include some language 3-part cards in 5 languages currently. I have English, French, Arabic, Urdu and Spanish, and there will be more updated on request. I have all of these products translated and checked by multiple sources, including someone who is educated in each language so that they are well and truly checked over. But I have designed these myself. I've also designed some snap playing cards, and also I have written a book that has been translated across these languages, which is hopefully going to be released soon as well. But if you'd like to stay in the know about this, just again go to that subscription link to get your free download and you'll be popped on the list to be notified of all of these new products coming up soon. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more updates. If you'd like to continue watching this presentation, just click the next video in the description below or at the end screen and you will be taken to the Montessori homeschooling part of this presentation. Thanks for joining me and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye!